I don't think anybody truly understood what Vampire Survivors would do to the gaming space a few years after its release. When it first came out, it looked like a very simple pixel art game that maybe you would make out of a game jam or something like that. And I don't mean that or anything else I'm about to say to discredit the developer in any way, shape, or form. But at first glance with Vampire Survivors, I think that most people had a very similar thought process. It looks like a simple 2D pixel art game where really all you do is walk around and let your weapons kill all the enemies for you. You have to survive for 30 minutes, and if you do, you might unlock a couple things that can help you get a little bit stronger for your next run. But that is a very reductive way to look at it. Well, true in some sense, there is a lot more to the progression system than you would expect after your first few runs. Today's video is not going to explain the ins and outs of every single little secret you're going to find, but I did want to shed more light on this game for people who were like me initially and maybe just did a couple runs every once in a while without any direction, and also to allow me to further expand the discussion around these types of games later on with new videos about the myriad amounts of spin-off titles that came as a result of this particular game. Vampire Survivors really did kickstart an almost entirely brand new genre in the year 2021, which is very impressive and worth talking about. So, if you've somehow made it through half of the year 2026 without either playing or seeing any Vampire Survivors gameplay, then I'll take a minute or two to talk about what it is. Essentially, you choose a character out of a vast array of multiple different types of characters that each start with their own starting weapon and a little quirk about how their stats work. You then proceed through the map with your weapon auto firing at the nearest enemies, and you collect experience. And every time you level up, you get to pick between 3 or 4 different either weapon options or support item options to put together your build. You then take that build and try to survive for 30 minutes on any given map. After 30 minutes, you get attacked by the Reaper, who in the early parts of the game is impossible to kill and is basically a kill switch for your run. Then, depending on what kind of achievements you unlock during that run, you will unlock new progression systems, either new weapons, new support items, new maps, new characters, and new relics that will move your account progression forward and allow you to achieve bigger and better things later on. Alongside experience, you will also be earning gold for your account, which you can use after the run to purchase power-ups to make your future runs easier as well. You can increase your max health, your character speed, your weapon damage, the amount of experience you get, and all sorts of different things, including curses, which will make your runs a little bit more difficult as well. So after this kind of broad overview of what you do in this game, what is it that makes it so addictive and made it kickstart an entire genre essentially all by itself? Well, it turns out that it's actually kind of fun to experiment with the different weapon and support item options that are available to you at first. It's also pretty fun and relaxing to just worry about moving around the map. That's really all you do as a player is focus on your movement or schmovement, as some people like to call it, and just keep yourself alive while watching the cool weapon combinations you put together go to work for you. Eventually, you're going to stumble across the weapon evolution system, which really expands a large part of this game and is one of the more intriguing aspects of it. I can't even remember how I learned about weapon evolution, whether it was a accidental mistake or something that I found in a video or something like that. But once you understand that you can combine certain weapons with certain support items, you realize, okay, now I actually have a target of what I want to do each run. You're not just surviving, you're trying to find the different combinations and unlock the evolved weapons, which not only make you more stronger, but increase your account progression and move you closer towards completing the game. You also unlock new characters that will start with different items, and you unlock new stages, which give you new relics to hunt for and expand the game that way as well. You'll also unlock arcanas pretty early on, which give you options to kind of tweak your weapons that you have or tweak how certain aspects of the run will go as well. And honestly, for me, those aspects alone were more than enough to keep me coming back every once in a while and doing a couple runs and seeing what I can unlock. I'd look to see what characters were available and which ones were locked, and what I would need to do to unlock a specific character, and then try to find the map that supported that and go complete that objective. At the same time, I would try to put together some new weapon combinations that I hadn't tried before, and really, that was all I actually did. Before I sat down to make this video, I had 80 hours in Vampire Survivors, and the majority of it was just taking that exact approach, and I was happy with that. However, when I did sit down to make this video, I made it a point to try to understand the game a little bit deeper, and that is when I learned that there was actually a lot more going on than what I expected. I'm not going to go into spoilers necessarily for this video, but I will say that there's a particular relic called the yellow sign that I had no idea about. When I finally unlocked it and found out about the opportunities that are presented to you once you have that relic unlocked and how to work with them, that really changed how I was approaching future runs. There are also certain bosses that are not necessarily hidden, but they live on specific maps that you probably have no idea they're there unless something directed you in that way. Like for me, when I finally started looking up how do I progress in this game, I learned about the yellow sign and I learned about different bosses, one of which I still haven't been able to kill. And killing those bosses unlocks even more things in the game that keeps pushing you forward. So all of these progression mechanics and gameplay mechanics combine into a really smart gameplay loop that has you unknowingly wanting to continue for that just one more run effect. Even though these runs are 30 minutes, which actually effectively end up being more than 30 minutes because the clock stops every single time you get an upgrade or a weapon to choose from. So usually it's more of a 45-minute run. Unless you happen to stumble upon a certain relic that allows you to speed up the game even well in it by hitting the tab key, which turns out to be a big time saver. So yeah, the gameplay loop ends up becoming pretty clear and a fun kind of mission list for you to try to achieve as you play through this game. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to start off by either looking at certain characters you want to unlock and learning what you need to do to unlock them, or looking through your actual unlock screen to find out what has not been unlocked yet, which essentially is a giant checklist of missions for you to undertake at your own pace. You really just create your own quests in the overall grand scheme of trying to just unlock everything. There will obviously be certain characters or certain weapons or certain unlocks that you want to obtain for yourself because they sound more interesting to you. And there's not much that's really stopping you from doing that other than maybe a couple unlocks that you might need first in order to really go after what you're looking for. It really just depends. There have also been a handful of DLCs that have been released, some paid, some free, that just expand the game even further. New characters, new maps, new weapons, new hidden quests to achieve, just new everything. And that leads me into another aspect of this game that I think is actually more important than you would expect to talk about here. And that is the pricing. When Vampire Survivors released in early access, it came out at about $4 or something. Now, at its full release, it is full price $5.99 Canadian. I think this is really interesting because you can think of the price as actually part of the game design itself as well. Let me try to work that out. When the game first released, it had really good reviews, and streamers and YouTubers were playing it all over the place. That's how I learned about it. So when you see that a game is popping off and doing really well, and you go to check it out on Steam and you see that it's only $5, it is so much easier to pull the trigger on something like that than if it was like a $25 or $30 game. I'd say most people barely thought twice about it when they decided to actually purchase this game. And the price is a big factor. But beside the price, knowing the longevity and the replayability that this game and now this genre has, it just plays into it perfectly. Another thing I'd like to say is when super popular games like this come out and are offered at such an affordable price, it really helps out the game industry as a whole majorly. There's been this kind of ongoing culture war between indie games and AAA games, where AAA games are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make their games over the course of 5 to 10 years in some cases. And when they come out, there's this extreme pressure to make back that money. But on the other hand, you've got indie games like this that I don't know what the budget was to make it or even how long it took to make the game, but I can assure you that it wasn't in the hundreds of millions and it wasn't in the 5 to 10 year span. So games like this really help balance out the industry. And not only that, when you see games that have such immense success like this come out for $5, then that helps future games be priced more fairly for gamers as well, especially in the indie space. There's all sorts of different competitors now or spin-offs of this exact type of genre, and the pricing is a little bit varied, but definitely kept more towards the cheaper side than towards the $80 price points. You'll find games that are $10, $15, and some will even try to stretch it to $20 for this type of game. But there's also games that remain at around that $5 price point, and some are even just free for you to play. So that's another important thing that Vampire Survivors helped with the genre. It didn't kickstart it by itself. There were certainly cheap indie games that came out to critical success before Vampire Survivors did, but it just helps support that kind of ecosystem. And the fact that it kickstarted a whole new genre by itself is just the cherry on top. You could say that Vampire Survivors really was a lightning in a bottle in that aspect. To further that point even more, I just want to praise the developer for understanding that they released a global phenomenon of a game that just took off everywhere. And instead of trying to cash grab further, they continue to support the game with free DLC updates and some paid DLC updates. But those paid DLCs followed the exact same pricing trend of being incredibly cheap and essentially a no-brainer to just buy if you enjoy the game at all and if you want to support the developer. I purchase all the DLC for this game every time it comes out, whether I'm playing it actively or not. If it's $4 to just add to the complete collection for this game and also support the developer, that's the kind of thing that is just easy for me to do. And I think there's a lot of people out there like me as well, which just confirms that not only is it a really smart choice to continue to develop this game over time, but to keep the pricing in such an affordable range just makes it so accessible for everybody to play. And I just think that's kind of a side note that's worth talking about with Vampire Survivors because it's an important aspect of the game as a whole. I should just say quickly, though, that the DLC is in no way necessary to enjoy the base form of this game. In fact, again, I had 80 hours in this game without even touching any of the DLC until I started sitting down to make this video, where I felt it was probably a good idea to try some of it out. Now, just to take a step back from the glaze fest that's been going on here, I do want to touch on a couple things about this game that might not be for everybody, and some are just weaknesses inherently. The biggest one is the clarity of the screen when you get deeper into the game. And I have to warn you that if you are epileptic in any way or have any sort of distress when it comes to flashing screens or disorienting screens, then you want to be careful when you're playing this game, because by the time you get to the end of a specific level and you're just getting overrun with enemies and it's just all flashing effects and numbers and things like that, even for somebody who is not normally bothered by that type of thing, it can really do a number on your eyes. Also, the progression is in the form of a checklist, more or less, and some people like that. I tend to like that kind of thing, but some people don't. And when it comes to the character variety, really what it feels like at the end of the day is you're just walking around with a different sprite. Yes, they do have some different stat things going on in the background, and they'll start with some different weapons, which allow you to focus on different routes as far as weapon upgrades go. But really, every character essentially just walks around the screen at varying speeds with varying amounts of HP and power and things like that. So if the initial gameplay loop doesn't pull you in and is not really your vibe, then I don't think playing the game any further will do much to help you out in that aspect. It's probably just that these types of games are not for you. That said, though, just as we start to wrap up this video, I do want to highlight one more time the legacy that Vampire Survivors has left behind, essentially creating an entire new genre that allowed so many other developers to get into the space with spin-offs of this type of game. If you've ever done any type of game dev in your life, then you might see this kind of game and just think like, man, I was just one little idea away from being able to do something like this. And again, that's not to take away from the developer of Vampire Survivors. I think they created a fantastic game and had a fantastic idea to expand on it. It's not just walk around and kill enemies endlessly. They found a great way to tie in progression loops and roguelike elements to support it and give it hours and hours of gameplay over time. So Vampire Survivors is not a new game. Chances are you've heard of it and you already have an opinion on it. But I really wanted to make a video about it because, first off, there are many games in this space that I really like and I'd like to make videos of in the future. And it just made sense to start off with the OG that kicked it all off. And it's an enjoyable game on its own as well. I don't know that it's the best one of this genre, but that's kind of why I wanted to start with it, so I can start comparing objectively and make videos about other spin-offs in the future and see kind of how they stack up. I do want to say, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below if you've played this game or if there are other games in this genre that you would recommend. I've tried a lot of them already, but there are many that I haven't tried, so I'm always happy to hear your recommendations. If you liked the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more in the future, and I will see you in the next one.